Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of 1 Million Cups. My name is Nicholas Stamper, and I will be hosting today's presentation. First, I'm going to go ahead and talk for a few minutes about 1 Million Cups Chico, its mission, and then the second thing will be the actual 6-minute presentation done by our guest. Following, we'll have a Q&A from the audience, and then shortly after that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. 1 Million Cups was created by the Kauffman Foundation. The purpose of this foundation works alongside educators, researchers, and other partners to better understand and improve the environment in which entrepreneurs start and grow businesses. 1 Million Cups is a free weekly program to educate, engage, and connect local entrepreneurs. It's an environment where you get to be able to have different conversations with different entrepreneurs and business owners. The overall mission behind 1 Million Cups is to, again, not only lower the barrier of access to education resources for all these entrepreneurs, but to be surrounded by a community and an environment that helps you get ideas and get feedback on your business. In the beginning, 1 Million Cups started off small in Kansas City, and then by July 2022, and even to today, it's grown to 131 communities. Moving forward, at each location, there are presentations each week. Today, we have Stephen Burke with the Civic Duty Wellness app. He's going to have 6 minutes to present and then 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A. If you want to know more about 1 Million Cups or how to present here, please feel free to visit our amazing community online and visit our platform at www.1millioncups.com/Chico. And from here, I'm going to hand it off to Stephen. All right. Just a second. All right, Stephen, go for it.
All right. Well, thanks for everybody for being here. This is a work in progress, as they all are in startup community. Hopefully you guys have your cup of coffee. I think that was a really important point, is in 1 Million Cups stands for 1 million cups of coffee. So we're all at this time, 9 a.m. Wednesday, all drinking 1 million cups of coffee. And that's sort of like this 131 communities all coming together. So it's a really cool concept, I think. And this is my 4th time presenting over the course of 2.5 years. So this is hopefully come a long way, and you guys can hopefully follow along without too much confusion. So we'll just go ahead and jump right in. Nicholas, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it perfectly.
Okay, great. Let's see. All right, so I'll go ahead and jump into it and try to multitask on different screens here. So if I get hung up there, we'll just go for it. I'm going to time myself. All right. Well, good morning, Chico startup community. I'd like to take a moment to start with a visualization practice. Imagine after your last summer at home with your parents and friends, you have packed up all your belongings and you head off for your first year of college. With your parents there to drop you off, you get settled into the campus dorm with your new roommate, and you feel excited for what lies ahead. Congratulations, you made it to adulthood, where you will now spend the next 4 years working to successfully graduate. Suddenly, the overwhelming sense of failure sets in, the excitement quickly fades, and the sense of belonging wanes. 2 out of 5 students in this position find themselves dropping out of college with the fastest rate in the first year. So here at Civic Duty, we ask, what does college have in store for these students? While being on your own for the first time, you will experience emotional trauma from the challenges that come with finding a sense of belonging while performing at a level demanded in college-level classes. The 4 phases of emotional trauma life cycle are preparedness and identifying warnings. 2, response to a trauma. 3, recovery from the impact, coming to terms with the trauma. And 4, prevention, where you will adapt to find a new normal. Harvard Business Review summarizes it best. This is the adaptability paradox. When we most need to learn, change, and adapt, we are most likely to react with old approaches that are not suited for our new situation, leading to poorer decisions and ineffective solutions. By show of head nods or yes reactions in the Zoom, how many of you here have attended college? Okay, seeing a lot of yeses, majority. Now nod your head or react in Zoom if you were socially and emotionally prepared for college. Okay, much fewer yes responses. So Civic Duty, Wellness at College is a mobile web application for empowering students to develop the habit of asking for and receiving help. Through our multi-pronged solution, we offer goal setting and daily check-ins for students to assess themselves through the 8 dimensions of wellness. Using our machine learning AI technology, we are able to generate personalized suggestions for students sourced from college community services and programs. To keep students motivated, we offer an interactive, gamified reward system that is sponsored by college campus organizations. Generationally, social problems have always existed. Today, it's gun violence in schools, it's polarizing politics, and it's drug overdoses. College students are supported in a number of ways when they need help, including school announcement emails, peer support groups, or personalized care for mental health. Civic Duty Wellness at College delivers the new age solution to address the mental health crisis, as it is referred to in Senate Bill 11, California State University Mental Health Counseling. This is a California bill that seeks to require more mental health counselors to be available for the 23 CSU campuses, requiring regular student health and wellness surveys by January 1st of 2025. So what does it do? Civic Duty Wellness at College is a student-centric solution to reduce the risk of student dropout and help you meet your goals. Moreover, student communities benefit from an increased rate of graduation and reduced healthcare costs due to encouragement of healthy habits and promotion of preventative care. Our multifaceted approach includes building confidence for students to assure their parents that their child is equipped with the right resources when sending them off to school, informing college administrators to make better informed decisions about key performance indicators, and optimizing student engagement for campus programs and mental health counselors, while of course meeting the legislative reporting requirement like at Senate Bill 11. Civic Duty is a social enterprise with a free-to-use web application that enables anyone to join our community. Today, our soft launch has begun with a direct-to-consumer model. Through campus outreach, we will lead in-person activities and events in collaboration with campus organizations. By strategically partnering with student-led organizations, college administrators, and faculty, we will promote this complementary tool for campus well-being. In the long term, we plan to transition primarily to a B2B business model, serving colleges that will pay for their students access to the premium version of the app. This market opportunity includes a total addressable market of over 4,000 colleges and nearly 20 million students nationwide. In California, the serviceable attainable market, or SAM, represents over 10% of the national market. Our go-to-market strategy focuses on serving nearly 1.5 million students, providing the serviceable obtainable market from CSU specifically as a market value of 12.5 million annually. Our B2B pricing model includes a flat rate of $2,000 per month for college campuses with a $2 per student monthly subscription rate. Our platform is also available for non-CSU students with the option of subscribing for a premium user experience at $5 per month. Our go-to-market strategy focuses on the 23 campuses across the California State University system. With 1 in 10 students in student government, these organizations lead wellness initiatives and are key as an early adopter. 1 out of 2 students are part of student-led organizations on campus. And finally, Civic Duty is dedicated to serving one of the most diverse student populations in the country, focusing on the 50% of students at CSUs that are considered historically marginalized or underrepresented. Our goal is to onboard 1,000 enrolled student users within the first 3 months of our financial forecast, with a path to reach $1 million in revenue within 12 months. To achieve this, we plan to onboard 10 CSU campuses with 170,000 students in 12 months, aiming for a cash flow positive outcome and reducing the customer acquisition cost, or CAC, from $20 to $3 per student in this period. Civic Duty will need $800,000 to achieve our goal to reach $1 million in revenue within 12 months. We plan to raise 25% of this through crowdfunding and the remaining 75% through investments, grants, and loans. We also are open to exploring the possibility of finding a strategic partner interested in providing a seed investment of $600,000 with a 3-year payback period and a 5% equity share in our company. So meet the team. Our team is comprised of 4 graduates from California State Universities with personal relationship to this problem. And we also have an applications development team. Most recently, we have 2 board advisors with experience working firsthand with California State institutions. And we welcome you, the audience, to visit our website, www.civicdutywellness.com, to learn more, and we welcome any questions. Thank you, guys.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Absolutely.
To about 7.5 minutes. It's a little bit over 6, but
that's okay.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Did you say you wanted to demo the app for everybody?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can do that for sure. I can take questions. It's up to you guys. What do you guys want to, what direction you guys want to go?
I think if you have a demo, that's fine. You guys.
Sure.
And then we can do questions.
Yeah.
Okay. You can still see my screen, okay?
Perfectly.
All right, cool. So this is just a landing page for our company, kind of outlining what I just described to you guys. When you're here, it's really easy to just jump in to the get started. And this is where you can actually generate yourself a free PDF. It'll be sent to your email, and it provides you a assessment of your individual well-being. So this is a process of going through 40 questions that are spread across 8 dimensions of wellness. And by taking this survey, you can just go ahead and answer these questions, whether it's engaging in physical activity, yes, regularly, or not at all, receiving sleep, 7 to 9 hours each night, making food choices that support your health, and then just getting yourself physically tested through your own healthcare provider. Now, this is another question that, some people might not want to necessarily disclose, but coming into like the alcohol consumption, especially in college, it's really, really common. So as you go through this survey, I won't go ahead and take the full survey, but you're going to go through and you can see the top, there's a dimension of wellness at the top, and there's going to just be questions that are related to that dimension. So it really helps you contextualize what is it that I'm trying to see in myself, and it's going to, as at the end of this assessment, this 40 question assessment, you will receive a PDF with calculated goals for yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. So that's called your importance goal, and that's going to be what your scale from 1 to 10. I can go ahead and show you what that looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and log into the app. So this is your importance goal. So a wellness importance. This is how we set your goals. So you're going to choose a value from 1 to 10, 1 being not important at all, 10 being the highest importance. And you can kind of see when you hover over each of the dimensions of wellness, there's a definition that comes with it. And so I'll just quickly go through the 8 dimensions. So you have physical wellness, emotional wellness, intellectual wellness, social wellness, spiritual, environmental, occupational, and financial. So again, there's definitions that are kind of hidden as you hover over the answer or click on it if you're using your mobile device. And so that's what you're going to do when you log in initially. You're going to set your values for the dimension of wellness. And then when you go ahead and press submit, it's going to take you to your dashboard. So here on your dashboard, you can see that you're provided a 8-sided shape to graphically view your dimension of your well-being. And so this is what we're seeing here is your goals. So you can see, for me, occupational wellness was really high, physical wellness really high, social wellness pretty high. Now there's some other areas that look pretty low, whether it's emotional, intellectual, spiritual, and so it's kind of an idea of relevant to you and your needs. What do you value? What do you prioritize? And so again, taking that 40 question assessment, it's going to generate you some suggested values to get started based on your own honest answers. So if you take that assessment, answer the best you can, and then you can go ahead and plug in the values to see what graphically shows up for you, so you can identify what do you value and are you reaching those goals. When you're in the app, now you're going to go ahead and start by taking a daily survey. And this daily survey is very similar to what you just saw. And the importance values, there's 8 dimensions. There's a scale from 1 to 10. And what we're doing here is, instead of your importance, you're evaluating your performance. And generally, we suggest using the last 24 hours or one specific day. And so we're going to focus on answering 1 if you have severely unsatisfied performance, or 10, you're totally satisfied with that dimension of wellness for the day. And through that process, if I go ahead and take a survey, you can see that I've answered all my performance super quick. There's this option to add an activity. If you want to get into the weeds, you can kind of sort your activities through kind of what's provided. So you can go into social, and you can see there's some options here. And then you can drill in all the way to activity. So like, for instance, if we're doing a volunteering community service, you might say, I did that from, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and the stress that I experienced. And we're doing a stress evaluation because this data is going to help us provide predictive suggestions personalized to your needs, especially when we know what activities you guys are regularly participating in. So maybe you had a medium stress for this particular activity, and maybe I put 1 million cups. So by saving that value, now I've got my my volunteer work in this example, and I'm just going to go ahead and press submit. So with that, you can see there's this cool graphic that's provided where you can see in the red, that's your performance, and in the gray, that's your importance. This is called the Importance Performance Assessment Scale, or the IPA scale. And this is really common in research, and it's really designed to help you figure out, are you reaching your goals? If you're not reaching the goals, what's the difference? Do you need to modify your goals, or do you need to work harder to perform like you'd hope to perform in that category? So that's pretty much what we're looking at. There is one more addition, which is called resources. So this is a resource page where you can actually drill in and actually start to view some of the resources available. So if you have like an interest in a specific college or a dimension of wellness, you might go ahead and search, intellectual wellness in this example. And so you can kind of see some of the examples. Now, we don't have, this is really early, so we're trying to really compile all the resources available, and we're just taking them from your college and we're plugging them into this resource repository. Again, this is designed so we can backfill and predictively personalize suggestions where it's localized to your personal needs. And that's pretty much the gist of the interface. The last thing might be to show you the My Profile. You can see here, this is the calculated values for your importance. So this is kind of what you would see in that email when you get your final results from that assessment. So is there any questions? I know that was probably a lot in the pitch and the demo.
No, but good job, by the way. Good job on your pitch. And I came to the party late, so you're gonna have to forgive me. So first of all, hi, my name's Eva, and I'm the chapter lead for 1 Million Cups for Chico. Awesome. I also run Chico Start and I don't know, a handful of other things. So how did you pick the name of your company?
It's a good question. It's funny, I get that question a lot. So I chose that name. I'm a civil engineer. So I actually don't have any real, background in software development. I really just learned on the job. But as a civil engineer, like the word civic, and just sort of that idea of having a duty to be of service to others has always been really prominent in my life. I never liked the idea of, civic duty being specifically voting or serving on jury duty or following the law. I kind of felt like it was kind of authoritarian. And so I felt like there's this way of looking at civic duty as self-care. So when you're in college, like, you should really just be prioritizing your own self-care. It's okay to be selfish. If you taking care of yourself is the priority, because the ripple effect is really what I'm trying to incorporate, is by prioritizing self-care as your civic duty. Now you're kind of flipping the script on, trying to be everywhere at once, instead just focusing on yourself and making the best version of yourself for the community.
I like that.
Cool.
All right. So another thing you might have covered in the presentation, but I'll ask anyway, and it might have been in the team slide. What are the different CSUs that you guys have all come from?
Oh, our team? Yeah, no problem. And actually, I did say CSUs for all of us, but I misspoke. So Jocelyn, so I came from Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo.
Yep.
And and down here, Evarista, she was actually the first, she was on my first team in 2021. I worked with Sac State, and I worked with, they have a senior projects for their computer science department, and they need businesses so they can do their development of something, right, for their senior project. So I was a project for Evarista and a team of 8 students graduating from Sac State. She actually reached out to me, and we've been working ever since. And then Jocelyn graduated from UC Davis in the 1990s, and Alexis just graduated this month from UC Davis. And so those are where we come from.
That's okay. It's California colleges, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting mix. I like that. So where are you at with this particular app? I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing. Are you guys alpha? Are you guys in like MVP? Are you guys in beta? Where are we at?
Okay, great question. So the original prototype was released in 2021, Q4, and we did market research using that prototype during 2022. We figured out that, our target market is colleges. And then in March of this year, we started doing the beta, or the prototype development for mobile scale, like a scalable app that's going to be able to go to mobile. So right now it's based on a web browser, and we're under a soft launch. So what I just demoed for you is a soft launch. Obviously there's still some work to be done, but we are right now hoping that by August, we will have this web browser hopefully ready for use as students are entering their 2023-2024 academic year.
Okay. And one last question, I'll quit monopolizing. What if this takes off like a rocket ship?
It's a great question.
Now, like, I know how academia works. It's slow and backwards. So but I'm just wondering, like, can you guys handle that?
I think we can. Yeah, I mean, it's the platform, the infrastructure that we've built is scalable. That was the key goal, working with our software development team. And they're ready to work with mobile. It really comes down to capital, right? So if I can have the capital to scale, then I will be able to do that. And I have taken a personal loan out, and I have the capacity to take out more money for my own personal capital. So, and this was, I'm not like, this is my own like work money. So, but I've saved enough to get me far enough, fast enough to, I think, to at least start to get that traction, to get additional funding in the next 6 months. So if it does take off, right, and then we do hit that 1 million mark, 170,000 users by the end of the 2023-2024 school year, that's going to take a lot of fundraising, and that's going to take a lot of capital. I'm actually located now in Silicon Valley. So I just moved from Sacramento, and I'm hoping that I can kind of bridge some of the startup community resource and assets with my app. So it's not a great answer, but wishful thinking.
No, thank you for the update. I'm going to let other people ask questions now, and I'll save some of mine for later.
Thank you for your questions, Eva.
I have a question. So you had like a problem, and did you like do research for yourself? Like, oh, I need help with this like wellness of myself while I'm in college. And did you not find anything, or were there other competitors out there?
Yeah, good question. So when I was in college, I served on what's called the Student Health Advisory Committee or Council. It was called SHAC. And I honestly went to these meetings because I was an employee with ASI. and I was like, free pizza. So I just went to the meetings, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. You know, Cal Poly is located 3 hours from any HMO service provider, HMO being your insurance. And I had a lot of health issues. I just had so many injuries, and I constantly needed help with doctors. So when I was going to these student health awareness advisory committees, I was really curious about what is the school doing for the students. And it really seemed like it's a top-down like architecture of, are we providing, one of the things I found really interesting is there's this graph that's really interesting. So this is what was briefed out to us during these meetings, is something like this graph here on the right, which is, this is the number of mental health counselors that are provided to colleges based on their student population. So the maximum ratio recommended is one mental health counselor for every 1,500 students. You can see Chico's right around that maximum recommended. And there's obviously some other colleges that are a little bit farther or better. And so what it comes down to is how many mental health providers are there, because that determines what the wait time is going to be, what the level of personalized care you're going to have. I didn't really love the idea that, you know, we were talking in those meetings about what the funding, you know, what funding are we going to get so we can pay people to help the students. It felt very indirect. Like, it didn't feel like we were taking on any of the student opinions or any of the student feedback of, well, what's working for you guys and what's not working for you guys. And and I also felt like there was way too many resources. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to look at your college website, but it's a rabbit hole. You know, there's over 50 organizations, not including your departments for your academic, that are designed to support you as a student. But you don't necessarily need to until you like have an emergency where you're like, oh crap, I need to look up, you know, campus police or parking or some sort of other issue that I need help with. And when you're in those moments, it's really stressful to also try to go and seek help on something like that, where it's so much information.
And has the question.
A comment first. That chart looks like the ones at the top are worse off because there's
Correct.
so more students than the line would be. So we're just barely over the line to be in the bad zone, but we're doing almost okay. And then there's 7, they say there's 7 that are okay underneath that.
That's right. Only 7 out of 23.
Yeah. And then when I was in college, I was president of Electronics Club, and we had a nice ham Radio Shack. So I would go in there. They let us go in after hours. So I'd be in there, and it would be, you know, 1,000-watt transmitter and nice rotating antenna on the roof. It was a nice little refuge. And I would sometimes do tours for other students. So that was kind of, and then now I do a lot of volunteer work using radios out in the field, you know, working with CERT and Aries and some other groups, you know, delivering food to snowbound people, the roof's about to cave in. So kind of, you know, it could be a gateway, some of these clubs.
Absolutely.
You just might want to play with a hobby, and then it turns into kind of at least an avocation, if not a job. So.
Absolutely. And you guys are in the area of the Butte County fires.
Yeah,
so
we did a lot of that too. We did evacuation points and stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, I was in the state of California in the emergency response group for Northern California when those fires were happening. And so I was kind of watching how are the resources meeting the residents, right? Not to mention students who are, you know, sort of part-time residents. So it was really like concerning to me to watch Chico try their best to support their students, and not just Chico, but Butte County, Butte Junior College, right? So you have these colleges that have students that have moved away from home, and they're trying to fend for themselves in the light of this like super significant hazard that's like devastating the surrounding area. And you know, there was a lot of websites that came up that were kind of similar to this concept of like a resource repository, and I thought that was really cool. But I also felt like it was a little bit of a, you know, it's a maze, right? You're like clicking on things, trying to figure out like, well, what do I need, right? Where's the food pantry, or where's this, or where's that? So yeah, no, I think what you're doing sounds like
we did a lot of volunteer distributing food and stuff like that. So vaccinations, all sorts of things. So.
Well, Ivan, did you have anything you wanted to follow up with? I know you had unmuted.
No, I'm done. I just
okay.
But
Thank you.
The clubs can lead, you can attract them in just as kind of a hobby thing, and then it becomes useful to the community later on down the road.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, I did real quick. So you did say that there was a lot of resources inside the campuses that you were doing research, but
I don't know about
apart from that-
campuses, but at least in the community, the sheriff is getting a lot of money. We got a lot of grants for North Valley Community Foundation.
I was going back to Stefan, but thank you, Kent.
Yeah, go for it, Ivan.
My question was like the third party resource, kind of what you are outside of the school resources. There was like nobody else doing this.
Yeah, so you're talking like competitors. So there's one competitor so the biggest competitors are doing what's called a vertical mental health solutions. So that's where they're trying to actually be like really giving you the actual mental health, like counselor. And if you've noticed, there's a lot of telehealth, especially after COVID. And what we found is that when you do telehealth and you try to maximize that usefulness for college campus, you have people in Michigan, they're talking to someone in Chico, and they're like, you don't know what I'm going through. And they're trying to like make a relationship. And so our biggest competitors, they're actually providing the mental health counselor with a stacked technology on top of it to try to make it so that when you do a daily check-in, you're really going to be focusing on your emotions or your mental health and not necessarily the whole 8 dimensions. So we are very unique in having a focus on all 8 dimensions. And the biggest competitor, they did a pilot with CSUs from 2020 to 2022. They're called U at College. It's out of Colorado State University. And they kind of fell flat after they did their pilot. And I think it was because of, and actually legislation came out pretty much mandating that mental health counselors couldn't be telehealth. It had to be localized to the college because of this issue of relating to your counselor when you're literally thousands of miles away, and how frustrating that seemed to be for students.
Nice. I have one more question real quick. Those 8 dimensions, I've never seen them grouped together. Where did you get those, or where did you compile those 8 to be put together?
Totally good question. I did not create that. So I literally just assembled existing stuff. But it's interesting. When I was doing this, I was at Kaiser, and I was taking a hard copy intake of my well-being. I don't know if you guys ever go to your patient care and they do a hard copy and they're like, fill this survey out. So this survey that was provided to me, it had this column on the left, and it was like family, friends, work, physical health. It had all these categories, but it wasn't like things I was necessarily relating to at that current moment in my life. But then it had the importance, rate it from 1 to 10, the performance, rate it from 1 to 10. And what it was telling the doctors is, hey, this is their importance, this is their performance. Is it the same? Is it aligned? If it's not, like, let's talk more about it. So it was really being used already in Kaiser, this IPA scale. And what I did is I said, okay, well, if only those domains, right, those rows of what they're asking were related to me on any stage of my life, that would be really nice to have. And that's where I started doing the research into, well, what is holistic well-being? And I found that this is called the dimensions of wellness that came from the National Health Institute, NHI or NIH. And they created the 6 dimensions, and it evolved into the 8 in early 2000. So there's a professor in the East Coast. She's the one who gets the credit for creating the 8 dimensions of wellness. And they're universally used. World Health Organization, United Nations, our own substance abuse, mental health counseling agency in United States. So these 8 dimensions are really, seems to be like the universal metric for holistic well-being. Good questions, Ivan.
Question, Stephen.
Yeah, Heather.
A couple actually. So you said you're focusing on only the 23 universities in California.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you also focus on junior college? And then also, mental health can, start earlier than that, going to teenagers and high schools.
Great question.
That's
Yeah.
my first question.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So K through 12 is definitely a need, right? I have to pick a hole. I think last year what I figured out the most is through market research, I can't solve everybody's problem. and so what I realized is colleges actually organize their resources based on they already have dimensions of wellness intertied with their college student health and wellness programs. So a lot of times colleges will actually organize their resources available by those 8 dimensions. It might not always be 8. that's really where I found, let me see if I can pull up that example. So there's, so this Find Your College. Now it's not complete, but here's some of the local colleges that I was originally focused on. These are their examples. So each of these colleges, they're already using some form of dimensions of wellness to communicate to their students what the wellness resources are. And I totally agree with you. Junior college students need this as well. We're focusing on CSUs because of the motivation to buy. So this is really a business decision. So with the SB 11 mandating that health and wellness surveys are distributed to college students, CSU college students, it gives us that there's an infrastructure created about what's the data collection required, and who's going to pay for it and how much it's going to cost. So we're kind of a first to market in terms of meeting that legislative bill, which I think would then perpetuate how can we reach, branch out to these other colleges. And the K through 12, it's just a little more liability, right? Any data collection on young people is you're entering a new area of security concerns.
I just think like having this resource and the parents like being with them and doing this with them, do you know what I mean? And the daily thing, and then they're kind of doing it together. I guess that was the thought, anyway.
Or they can, the students can do it and share with their parents. Like, hey, here's the last week. This is what I've been up to, and the parents are like, well, what happened on Tuesday? In this category or whatever. That's absolutely like a goal for us, is to increase that communication between parents and students.
When you have that daily check-in, forget what it was called, the daily wellness check-in.
Yeah.
Does the app do a notification or text you? Is there a texting aspect to it that it reminds the person to go in and do that? I didn't see that.
Yeah, so that's in the My Settings, and we're still working on configuring it, but we've got this notifications where again, we're soft launch. So, but the idea is that what they can do is they configure their email preference or their SMS text preference. And so that'll send them a text. The goal here is they're going to set a timer. So it'll be like, we want to be reminded at, maybe 9 p.m. every day, right? Or maybe it's 9 a.m., right? First thing in the morning. So depending on the user preference, they can set up their reminder for daily check-ins.
Okay. And then your expert, is she the one that is handling like the resource information and the research and all those? I'm not sure. What is subject matter expert?
Yeah, so I participated in what's called this pitch deck is actually as a result of being a participant in what's called Sacramento Entrepreneurship Academy.
Yeah, we were just at the reception the other month. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. So I would have been there. My poster would have been there. Let me see if you guys can see my poster here, or our poster, I should say.
There it is.
Yeah, so this is what we made at the C program. We actually we didn't win that night at the reception, but we did win best business plan, and we actually are going to be doing a cohort with UC Davis in September, and
awesome.
And so through that program, I met Jocelyn and I met Alexis. There was 15, entrepreneurs curious in growing a business. We all were interested in health and wellness, and we all related to this problem. So Jocelyn, she works as a trainer for certifying grief counselors through the Grief Recovery Institute. And so her experience is really the emotional aspects of the emotional trauma and what people are needing to go through grief. Which is definitely my weakness. I need that for myself. Grief is not something I'm easy to comfortable with. And we have 2 board advisors that are really being onboarded right now. We're still working through the documentation. One of them is working on the contracting of all social media through CSU East Bay and CSU San Jose. So these would be areas where, if we can have a strategic partnership with them, then we can definitely have their expertise partner with the subject matter expertise. And, are we doing the emotional, are we meeting the needs, right, for that research? Because we want to conduct research, and we do have another board advisor who's a junior college institutional researcher. And so that's somebody who's going to help us really formulate that research documentation to make sure we're hitting those marks as we roll this out.
Okay, great.
So that's a lot of information.
No, that's good. I was just wondering,
Cool.
from an advisory and what the subject matter expert meant when you on her title. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a quick question.
Shoot, Nicholas.
Obviously, since all of us have been to college, we know that we know how just important it is to prioritize your mental health, to take care of yourself, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally. But how well do you think, like, especially like incoming freshmen, but how well do you think that students truly understand that? And how much of a like demand for something like that do you think there is in someone who's like 18 or 19 and they're just getting to college, living on their own for the first time?
No, absolutely. That's probably the best question, because our findings from last year's market research is that, I went boots on the ground, started asking students, and as much as they know that their wellness is imbalanced, they don't care. They don't care to figure it out. It's not their focus, their priority. And that's really why a direct to consumer goal isn't really realistic for the mass appeal, right? Direct to consumer might work for, a transfer student or someone who's like coming in a little bit older into college. But generally when students are entering college, the motivation to use this is either from their parents or it's from the college. And so if we can have the college make this a mandated survey before they register for their classes, then now you're collecting data at least twice, maybe 3 times a year. And if you have parents who are like, hey, send me your data, let me know how you're doing. And if they're satisfied with seeing your wellness data, that's creating a dialogue for your parents to actually be able to ask you questions as you're flying through college, not calling them as regularly as you might like. So those are sort of that user motivation to use the app is unfortunately, it's not going to be as much internal as, you might hope, but that's the reality.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Good question.
Do we have any more questions, guys?
What's your marketing plan?
Good question.
Kind of general, but
Yeah, no, I just met with my marketing company that gave me their pitch about what the plan will be. We're going to be doing a Kickstarter campaign. So it'll be a 4-series Kickstarter campaign. The first round is going to be largely just getting our booth set up, getting our event engagement. So we have all our branding. And then we're also going to continue to work on our app development, creating that premium version to kind of differentiate what a free experience might be versus a premium. And that's going to be hopefully finished. That's going to kick off, right when the school year starts. So as students are coming in, parents are dropping them off, orientation is starting, week of welcome gets started. We're going to have that be a Kickstarter campaign where you donate some of this money, you get free access to the premium version, and then that's going to be that first round of the Kickstarter. And we're going to have 3 more rounds of the Kickstarter, and those will help us scale to a mobile application. And that's if we don't get any additional capital fundraise, which, I'm hopeful that we can do that as well.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So is there a journaling function to this?
Good question. There is not, but it's complementary to existing journaling applications. So if you were yeah, go ahead.
Like Help Notes or?
Yeah, so if you're journaling on a regular basis, you would report that as an activity.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? And then you'd say, okay, I journaled. I mean, long term, it'd be nice if we could, predict that that activity had taken place because your phone had the journaling app open for half an hour or whatever. Maybe it's Dailyo or maybe it's another journaling platform. But if you're using these, some people might call them competitors, but if you're using those apps, maybe using Strava. Yeah, exactly. We're just taking on what's the data, what's the time spent on that app, and how does it make you feel? Is journaling helping you? Are you seeing a boost in your emotional well-being? Because every time you journal, you're having a higher emotional well-being performance. So that would be a correlation we'd like to make.
But do they know that?
No, they don't. And that's where, outreach, right? And
I guess there's 2 days. One is the student or the user, and the second would be perhaps people you could be partnering with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the strategic partnerships are huge. And our outreach campaigns, in February before COVID, I led my first outreach campaign, and it really is it's a small group engagement where you have 2 speakers, and between the speakers you have a breakout series where you actually start to engage with your questions. So the idea is maybe you have one of these events that's focusing on emotional well-being. And you're talking about, what are the things you can do to boost your emotional well-being, and maybe journaling is one of them. And by logging your journaling, you can track your emotional well-being and seeing, hey, is journaling helping, or is it just kind of staying flat? And maybe that means you need help journaling better to help you like download your information better, or maybe you need to find something that works better for you. And so guiding students in that way is definitely, that's going to be a hands-on process for sure.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because it's, science, right, says that, journaling at least 3 things that you're grateful for each day, right? Even if you just find those 3, just because of wherever you're at that day, right, helps boost those type of things. And I was just thinking about that as being kind of probably critical.
I'll take that under advisement. I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Stephen, is there anything, I'm thinking of somebody that, was doing their check-ins every day and everything is consistently low, which could be a scary sign.
Yep.
Is there an aspect to the app that, I don't know, an alert, an alarm, or, this person does not seem well or might be on the verge of something, if you know what I'm saying? Like, how is that?
Absolutely. No, I mean, 1,100 students take their own life every year in colleges. So suicide is a real big issue. And that's just the students that are successful in taking their own life. There's a real risk of suicide ideation and getting to college and really, being in a life-threatening situation. And so I totally agree with you. And I definitely think that that's going to be a priority. And that's really where we want our research and our proof of concept to say that, hey, are we not only tracking and monitoring this, but we're having an interventions that's successful. And so I think my biggest value added would be that if you can have, let's say, your mental health counselor, your academic advisor, and your, maybe some other third party, maybe parents, right? If you have three people that are all playing a role in your life, and they can all see data that have to do with maybe between each service visit, right? So whether you're visiting your parents every month or every quarter, and you're seeing your mental health counselor every 2-4 weeks, well, you're collecting data in between that time that can help them be a little bit more hands-on. And rather than you having to go into that appointment or that meeting with your parents or your mental health counselor and tell them like what happened the last month, they can look at your data, and then you can have a conversation that's constructive about how can we find you help? Are you asking for it in the right way? Are you able to receive it in the way that you're looking to receive it? And really start to get to the solution rather than just focusing so much on the problem.
Right. Yeah, I'm wondering if when they sign up, is there, like they have to put in a second contact?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's also something I should take under advisement.
Like an emergency contact, or I don't know.
I like that idea. Yeah.
Sheree, do you have a question?
Just piggybacking off of what Heather said, maybe since you are partnering with the CSUs, there could be a way to get in with the mental health counseling department so that you have regular reports sent back of those students directly to their advisors or their counselors, just as an update, because I know 1,500 students to one counselor is kind of a lot, and that could be a way for them to also keep tabs on students and schedule and set their own appointment with students when they notice their data is on the low side, instead of students reaching out for help. Because I have noticed, especially with just going to college over the last couple of years, they're not comfortable asking for help, but they also don't know how. So there's students who are suffering from like food insecurity, who don't know that college campuses have pantries where they can go get free food because they're too afraid, or they don't know all what that involves.
Absolutely.
So maybe there's like a report that you could put into the counselors when you do partner with them, and make that I don't know, like amended in your contract with the schools, because that would also be helpful, I think. But I think that that's really accurate. With 1,100 successful suicides on campus, I feel like there's other things that happen, such as drug abuse, you know what I'm saying, over drinking, hanging out with the wrong type of crowd or the wrong type of people.
Yep. Totally agree with you. And I think that you are right in terms of like the students having the option to send their data to an organization they're a community member of, whether it's your, maybe it's not just your mental health counselor, but maybe it's your, club that you're really interested in. And so I think that there is a value of like, who do I want to share my data with and why? You want to definitely have that ownership of your data as a student. You don't want to come into, 18 years old. You want your privacy first and then the option to share data. So that is sort of the goal of how we're focusing on this design. Good
Hey,
suggestions.
Stephen, did you list, again, earlier in your presentation, did you list any of your strategic partners that you would partner with? Like, I mean, beyond your target market, helping to grow your target market with a one-to-many strategy is like with a Cope Notes or whatever that other one is, Better Help.
Better Help. Yeah.
People who are already established, but you're adding another layer. Like, I don't know. I was just wondering if you already listed that and I missed it.
No, that's a good point. There definitely is interest. I think the biggest delineating factor is the legislation. Whatever happens with that legislation is going to drive a lot of the decisions that follow. So
yeah, and that leads to my next question about anything that's highly regulated and anything that has this kind of level of information comes with privacy. So are you guys HIPAA compliant?
HIPAA compliancy is actually something that's like one of those like really scary things, but when you research it, it's really interesting because when you privatize the data originally out the gates, it makes it really hard for you to be in compliant with HIPAA, especially when students are opting in to share their data. And we also don't consider the data to be necessarily health oriented. So we're definitely going to cross those roads. But what's interesting in SB 11, it actually breaks down exactly what you need to do to keep the HIPAA compliance and the data privacy. So if you guys are interested, you can always just check it out, the SB 11. But it gets into some really interesting things about a campus survey and data collection in accordance with the state and federal privacy laws, including confidentiality of Medical Information Act, and Federal Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, and then federal, the HIPAA, right? Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So it does lay out a blueprint for what we need to do to make sure we're
well, and then you become a requirement. I love it.
Isn't that awesome? I know it came out
super awesome.
I found this out while I was building this thing, and this was in March. I found it. I was like, oh my God, we have buyer motivation. So it was super exciting.
Well, yeah. I mean, so man, that's amazing, actually. And I think Heather asked the question earlier, but like, who's your competitor in this space that's doing just this, that would supply that same information?
I've yet to find somebody doing exactly the same thing. The biggest reason is my experience is I grew up with parents that are not, they're hands-on. There's so many experts that do the hands-on work. I don't need to replace them, which is my biggest competitor's goal, right? To replace the social workers, to replace the therapists. Like, I just need to complement their efforts. Right. So I don't see anybody who's sort of just setting a very clear boundary that we are a data system. Our goal is to collect data to support existing operations.
So who do you have doing, not lobbying, because we don't want to use those words, but cozying up to those who help, those who work with the colleges, like the congressmen and senators that have good relationships with colleges?
If you know anybody to help me out, I'm actively trying to figure that out.
Yes, I do. Wonderful. Her name's Susan Eggman, and she is one of the representatives in the Stockton area.
Okay.
And she's very keen on this kind of stuff. So I could see her wanting to get involved. Up here, I'm a little more worried about your guns and shit like that. So I don't know. Excuse my language. But she's very influential as well. I think she's the, whatever that is, the majority whip or something right now too, in the state. And she's very authentic, and she's very strategic in how she looks at each issue. And it's something that she's concerned about. I'd be happy to make the introductions for you, Steve.
That would be absolutely wonderful.
It might take a couple weeks because they're on summer session right now. But
the option of you even suggesting that is really, thank you very much.
What I seem to notice, having been in the grants game at the state level for about 2 or 3 years now, pretty steadily, is that those who help influence the legislation are normally influenced by those who cozy up to, right? Those particular, those making legislation. And then all of a sudden they and 3 others, because they have to legally, get recommended somehow or rise to the top somehow for these type of opportunities. It's just something I've noticed. I could be completely wrong. Maybe it's just in the areas I'm in, which is technical assistance, one-on-one counseling, entrepreneurship, that kind of stuff. I don't know, but this makes sense. It might be interesting to start asking for audiences at the Capitol.
Absolutely. No, I'm getting to the point where I'm building my confidence in that capacity. When I have my board of advisors and you know, my institutional research folk and my my marketing team that's already partnered up with CSUs, the idea would be that would provide this really strong foundation, specifically about who I'm already connected with, and maybe they already have, you know, some, you know, shoulders rubbed with president or whatever. But no, networking is huge. And I think that's a specialty for me. So I think that's where I come in. That's a strength for me.
One last question, because I could talk about this kind of stuff all day. Are you affiliated with the Hot House or anything at Cal Poly?
No, I'm not actually. That's new to me.
Okay, but you're in the Bay Area right now, though, right?
Yeah, I just moved here. January.
Okay. There's somebody else I'd like to introduce you to who looks at early stage, and he may not be available also over the summer because he's always traveling somewhere. But the name of this particular group is called One Flourish Capital.
Okay.
And but he will be at our Grow Tech Fest in October, which we can talk about later, which is the only entrepreneurial conference north of Sacramento.
Awesome.
So we'll talk about that too. Anyway, I'm talking too much.
No, you're great, Ava. Thank you so much for thinking of what
you're
can be
welcome.
helpful.
You're welcome.
I mean, that's the goal, right?
Presentation.
That's the goal. Is I think Nicholas would probably say, okay, so how can we help you, right? That's normally how these things.
How can we help you?
Right? Hey, if you want to help me, just come check out the app, provide me feedback, reach out to me. And if you have any ideas of maybe if you're not somebody who could directly help me, but you know somebody who might be of service, you know, just building that community around what we're doing would be awesome.
I can't wait to check the app out. I think that's awesome. I think it's so interesting because there's really no blueprint to what mental health looks like or what like ideal mental health looks like. It's different with each and every individual person. So the data you'll collect as the app progresses and as it grows will probably be incredibly interesting just to see how it shapes up over time.
Yeah. And maybe that would be motivating, right? Like I want my college to be higher in this area of wellness or something like that.
So Heather, did you have one more question?
Ken just had a comment.
Oh, Ken.
One resource you might use. I was acting as dispatcher for about a week during one of these, during the Snowmageddon. And we had a contact sheet for VOAD, Volunteer Organizations Assisting with Disasters. And that included things like Red Cross and some other things, including government agencies, you know, fire, police, welfare departments, you know, get people housing if they needed it or all sorts of things. So you might look up VOAD and see if there might be political connections for you too.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And it aligns with originally this emotional trauma life cycle. It stems from the emergency disaster life cycle. So these 4 aspects: preparedness, response, recovery, prevention. Instead of emotional trauma, it's just disaster. So if a disaster happened, this is the same dynamics that they would follow as a community and how the community is affected. So I would definitely check that out. Thank you, Ken.
Perfect. I think on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I'll share my screen. Just a second.
And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to talk with you more. And always looking for people to help me out. So thank you guys.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Stephen. Let's give a round of applause for him. So again, my name is Nicholas Stamper. I have been your host and organizer. I would also like to thank Eva Shepard, our chapter lead, for bringing us all together today. I'd like to thank our community sponsors, Chico Start, Grow Tech, Global Entrepreneur Network, Build with Ferguson, NorCal SBDC, Startup Grind, and of course, Stovall Coffee. Here are some of our upcoming events. Grow Tech Fest is at Sierra Nevada this year, October 11th through 12th, both days at Sierra Nevada, like I just said. Our launch sale is going on through June 30th. And we also have some SBDC events on June 22nd at 12 and one at 6. As always, I'd like to thank our audience for joining today's meeting. And lastly, I would like to leave on this note. If opportunity doesn't knock, build a door, from Milton Berle. I think I pronounced that correctly. But awesome. And I believe we are good. Thank you so much, Stephen. It was an incredible presentation.
Thank you, Nicholas. Thank you, everybody.
Great job, Stephen. Awesome idea.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent job, Stephen. And I'll be reaching out
awesome.
By the end of the week.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you guys for your support. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah.